Hey, what's up? Sunzi here, and today we will be doing another keyboard build. The keyboard that we'll be looking at today is the Tofu 60 acrylic case version. So, KBD fans, this is from KBD fans, and first of all, we can see that we get our polycarbonate. It's a little bit rough over here. We got our polycarbonate plate. You can choose between different plate material. I chose the polycarbonate one because I feel like this might fit the build better compared to the other plates. It'll have a more thockier sound in terms of it'll just sound less hollow basically with this plate. So it's our polycarbonate plate. Then we have the feet, the screws. So here's the PCB for the Tofu 60. It's a pretty standard PCB. I mean, I'm pretty certain that this is like a standard KBD fans hot swap PCB anyways, so this is basically just a KBD fans hot swap PCB. I've seen it so many times already, and there's nothing like surprising about it anymore, so it's basically just a hot swap PCB from KBD fans. A really nice PCB. Then we have the case, and this is basically the more important part actually, is this case right here. This is the acrylic case for the Tofu 60. Yeah, so this is one of the more budget keyboards you can get on KBD fans. They're in stock, so they're just available immediately. These are not gasket mounts, and they are also, these are not gasket mounts. Also, they do not offer any foam. There's no plate foam, there's no case foam, which is fine actually. I actually kind of want to try this without any foam because I feel like the hollowness coming from this case might actually be a good thing for the board. So we'll see how that goes. And yeah. Let's check out some of the other parts of the keyboard that we'll be using. Okay, so that was the complete build of the Tofu 60. So this is our sushi build. And I must say, okay, so this is the complete sushi keyboard build. Okay, a couple things we need to talk about here. This keycaps epic. The switches are insanely tactile. Personally, like, they're really tactile, and yeah, I find it a bit hard to recommend because it depends on what you want, but if you don't lube them, they're a lot more snappier, and I think they would feel a lot better, but they are extremely loud. Now, if you do lube them, you kind of like mute down the sound of their tactility, and they're still very, very tactile even if you lube them, but by lubing them with 205 grade zeros, you kind of just they feel a little bit mushy. Like, not, I don't want you to think mushy is like the same as like you lubed them so hard that you hit it and it won't pop back up, but it's that you feel that like resistance from that lube, and it's like it becomes kind of like a heavier switch after you lube them, so they're not as I don't know, like responsive or not as snappy as when you didn't lube them. So when you don't lube them, they're really snappy, really tactile, really, really loud. You lube them, they're still very tactile, but the typing feel is a little bit more, they feel a little bit more resistant and yeah, it's just heavier. Heavier is a better word. Like, the switches themselves just feel a bit heavier. And if you like keys like these, like the enter and backspace, if you hit them consistently, they feel like really, really heavy and kind of slow. I mean, they're responsive, they'll pop back up every time, no problem, but they just feel slow and feel heavy. So it's up to what you want. Another thing I want to talk about is the keyboard itself. One thing, they have sharp edges, so the design is nothing impressive. Like, there's just these sharp corners, sharp edges. This is literally just a box. So the design itself is nothing impressive. And the way how you actually build this entire thing, I don't know if you guys saw how I struggled, is there's actually nothing supporting the PCB and the plate, like holding them firmly at a certain position. So what you have to do, there's like nothing supporting the plate. What you have to do is you have to put a switch, you have to put the plate on the PCB, put a switch in, and then pop the polycarbonate plate into position onto the switch, like snap the switch and the plate together, and you have to do that for every single switch you put in. Eventually it becomes easier because the more switches you actually snap with the plate, the future switches, like the plate just kind of just gets in position, and then the future switches you don't have to like actually try to bend it back with the switch. It will just fit with the switch naturally, like there's actually something holding it. But of all the keyboards that I've built, there's like at least something kind of, especially hot swap, there's like something holding the plate in place so you can like pop switches in. This one literally has nothing in between the polycarbonate plate and the PCB. You have to just like kind of just bend the plate back up every time you pop a switch in. And this was extremely difficult with the polycarbonate plate because of how flexible it was. If you had a bronze plate, this would have been a whole lot easier, but with a polycarbonate plate, since it's so flexible, there's a lot more work to do. So the design of this keyboard is definitely nothing impressive, but the end results is decent. And due to its like unique kind of like especially since this has a polycarbonate plate, due to its unique kind of like mounting style, this board is actually quite flexible. But I would say it's not very evenly flexible, which I guess that's how gasket mount keyboards have the upper hand, is that since they put gaskets around the keyboard, the flex is kind of like you feel it more even. This one, the only reason why it's flexible is because it has a polycarbonate plate, and then there's no foam in the bottom, there's no foam in between. So this is and also this is a acrylic kind of like case material, so this is a very flexible keyboard because you can just bend onto the plate and the PCB pretty easily. But since the PCBs are held by 6 screws in like kind of even positions, but they don't offer the same amount of even flex compared to the gasket mounts. These are just flexible, but like not really evenly flexible. So the question I know that all of you guys have been waiting for is that should you get this keyboard or not? Well, there's certain levels to that. Is this a good keyboard? Yes. Should you get this keyboard? Yes. Is this an end game keyboard? No, not really. So I encourage you to get this board, to experiment with it, have fun with it, and it's not that expensive. So if you're just getting into the hobby, this board is actually not a terrible option, but there's gonna be certain levels of difficulty when you try to actually build this board properly. So the only people I can see this board being an end game keyboard for, are the people who would fix their own cars, tune their own pianos. Like, they like to do things on their own, and they don't need, like, they like to spend as little money as possible and improve things as much as they can on their own to make it reach a certain level of perfection. So let's say someone went out and bought an iPhone for $1,000. This person went to Shenzhen, China, bought all the parts for the iPhone for $400 and built the exact same phone. That's the kind of people I can see as buying this keyboard and just keep on tuning it towards a certain level of perfection, and they can actually make this board a really, really good keyboard, and maybe even into that end game territory. But also, if you're someone who thinks this can be your end game keyboard, you have to be someone who's kind of into this simple design. Like, there's no real characteristics or kind of uniqueness shining out of this keyboard that's speaking to people like, hey, this is who I am. This is a very plain and simple kind of keyboard design. So if you're that person who's like, I like simple things and I like to tune things and use my own hands to make less expensive things into something that compete with expensive things, then yes, this is going to be your endgame keyboard. But if you're someone who wants a board that speaks more about who you are and also has a lot more details, just a lot more well made, and the designer of the board has a lot of the details figured out for you already, so it just shows you the elegancy and the high-endness of the board itself, hence why it may cost you $300 to $500. Then no, this is not that kind of keyboard. So it really depends on what you're looking into. Personally, for me, this is not my end game keyboard. I really like this board a lot. Unfortunately, this is not the type of keyboard that, for me, I would consider end game. I would definitely look for a board that has more character in it and speaks a lot more of who I am as a person. And I'm not afraid of tuning stuff, but yeah, to me, this board itself is just a little bit too plain and simple. So I would be willing to spend more money on a high-end keyboard just because I feel like it's a lot more unique and I can actually show off a lot about, like, a lot more of me compared to just like trying to make a good keyboard. That's not the only reason why I'm trying to build a custom mechanical keyboard. instead of just like, oh, I want a custom mechanical keyboard because I want to like it to feel good when I type on it. That's only partially the reason. The other part is that I want to have a setup that like really tells people what kind of person I am. So unfortunately, this keyboard is not that kind of keyboard. It's too simple and plain, and this is not my type of endgame keyboard, but it could very much be an endgame keyboard for you if this is exactly what you've been looking for, and instead of spending $500, you're willing to spend 500 hours on tuning it. All right, so that's all I got for this episode. Another pretty good keyboard build that we have here. Be sure to like and sub, and we'll keep these keyboard videos coming. I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.